Welcome back to Horn Takes. I am Sean Redfern, and joining me tonight from the cheap seats is Chip Brown of Horns247 and Texas Sports Unfiltered. Chip, thanks for being on. How are we doing tonight?
Oh man, what are we? 10 days from liftoff?
Exactly. It's
Excitement abounds.
starting to feel real. It's starting to
Yeah,
feel like we're going to actually have a football season, and it's here. And all of the excitement of the off season's finally about to kind of pay off, is what it feels like. And
yeah,
you've kind of been in the mix for the last couple weeks. In the position you're in, you get to be there for the media days and things like that. Talk to us a little bit about how this fall camp has gone so far, in your opinion.
yeah. I think you know from a good news, bad news standpoint, there's way more good news than there is bad news. I think obviously let's start with the bad news. So you have the season-ending injury to Andre Kojo, who at best would have been the right tackle. At worst, he would have been the number 3 tackle for this team, and now you're pencil thin at a position where if something happens, now you're looking at Jaden Chapman, who was working at guard, or Nick Brooks, who's an enormous freshman, who's probably more like Cam Williams than he is like Kelvin Banks. Not as fluid, but can, once he gets his hands on you, you're done. Probably struggles a little bit with the quicker edge rushers, and not everybody's able to walk in as a true freshman and just be like, "Hey, I got this." So,
Exactly.
that's the high level concern. And then, if something happens at guard, they probably move Cole Hudson from center over to guard and move Connor Robertson in at center. So it's there's challenges for this offensive line to stay healthy, to and for those guys I just mentioned who are fighting now to get into the rotation, for them to really sharpen their focus and realize you could have an opportunity and your team needs you. So prepare like the starter. But outside of that, Sean, we're talking about Arch Manning needs to stay healthy, because I think there's a real battle going on to be his backup. I think right now, if you poured truth serum in Steve Sarkisian, he'd probably say Matt Caldwell, which, Trey Owens is an interesting guy because he's a gamer. Like, when the lights come on, he shows up. And I get it. He had a interception in the scrimmage Saturday. Santana Wilson. But it's considering Texas has only had one season in the last 14 where they didn't have to go to the backup for because of performance or injury, that's a real question.
Right.
I think Trey Owens is fine, but Matt Caldwell is a super smart guy who's picked up this offense, and Arch Manning was talking about how he's picking his brain. So, there's trouble just off the horizon if something happens on the offensive line, or obviously to Arch Manning. But everywhere else, it looks good.
Yeah, I think everybody's concern, if you were paying attention coming in this season, was the offensive line, and I think the offense in general. Like, what are we going to see? We're starting a whole lot of new people, eight new starters on that offense, starting a new quarterback. We know it's Arch. Everybody's excited about Arch, but it's still starting a new quarterback, and then you're starting behind 4 new offensive linemen. And I think if you're just, we don't know exactly how it's going to turn out. We'll find out in a few weeks. But if you're just looking at it on paper, that's not a great combination to start a season with, is a brand new quarterback and him starting behind 4 new offensive linemen. And then I think the blow of Andre Kojo injury, that already took an offensive line that probably pretty talented. I think you could argue that this group of guys coming in might be the most talented group of offensive linemen that Sark's had since he's been here, but a lot of question marks there. And then obviously he goes down, and I heard, I don't know, you probably know better, you do know better than I do. I heard he was pushing for some serious playing time possibly about the time that injury occurred. You know, there was people that were saying, I don't know, you know, it may not be Baker starting at right tackles.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
so, you know, that's a pretty big blow. And then here lately in the last couple of days, we've heard that Trevor Goosby's missed some time. I don't think that's a serious one, but it's certainly something that you go, oh, you know, that's concerning when two tackles that were probably going to play a lot this year are missing time. One of them for the rest of the season, and another one for whatever it is the rest of fall camp. What are you? What's the buzz on Goosby?
Yeah, I think Goosby's going to be okay. I think he's going to be good to go for Ohio State, but they're resting him. You know,
Right,
they're resting Quintravian Wisner,
right.
who came out of the scrimmage Saturday. Yeah, when you hear the names are Trevor Goosby, Quintravian Wisner, and Jelani McDonald, you're like, well, hell.
Yeah, that's not
You
good.
know, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? So, you know, Sarkisian said if it was a game day, they probably all could have gone back in, but as it is now, they're resting in recovery with all those guys because you know, they need those guys healthy, especially Gooseby. If you're talking about, you know, the big guys and if it's a lower body injury, it can really be hard to recover from because you're carrying 300 pounds. So, but what I'm hearing is they're going to be okay. Honestly, the one that might be, you know, the most concerning is Wisner, is what I'm hearing of those. So, you know, and fortunately, Texas, although Wisner's so tough, I don't know that he'll miss a thing. So, you know, but that's, you know, Sarkisian said, hey, we didn't have any catastrophic injuries
Right.
outside of Kojo. So, you know, it's been,
Yeah, I think probably on the injury front, this has been the best fall camp Texas has had. I mean, we've seen them lose, like last year, just running backs dropping like flies. The year before that, Isaiah Nair tears his knee, and actually he tore his knee up 2 years in a row, didn't he? In fall camp here at Texas, I know one for sure.
yeah, one for sure. And then what maybe the one before that, O'Meary.
Yeah, that's it.
Um,
Troy O'Meary. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So we've seen a lot of guys, and I think, you know, those were all guys that were going to figure in. They were going to factor into the offensive game plan week in and week out. And so at least we can, you know, that's the big positive is, so we made it through fall camp and we don't have a lot of catastrophic injuries. And I think on the positive side, you kind of let off like there's a lot of positives, but let's talk negatives. The positive side, for all accounts, CJ Baxter, Christian Clark looking good after pretty rough injuries last year. I was really concerned going into spring. Is CJ Baxter going to be ready to do anything in fall camp? Is a guy like Christian Clark with coming off of an Achilles injury, is he going to be ready to do anything? Those are tough injuries for running backs. We've seen running backs not make it back from those things, and from all accounts, they're doing. Not only are they back and they're, you know, participating, they're actually, you know, making plays.
yeah. And I think, you know, Steve Sarkisian said after the second scrimmage, I've changed my tune from being overly cautious and patient with CJ Baxter to speeding up and increasing his number of live reps. So the word is he's, you know, look, there are mornings where he wakes up and it's stiff and he's got to do extra recovery, and that's going to be the case for a while because you repair an LCL and a PCL. I mean, he was one ligament away from the trifecta.
Right.
And the LCL and the PCL are harder recoveries than the ACL. So he's done everything right. He wants it so bad. He's such a tough guy. He's a really good teammate, and I'm excited to see what he does because he came out of a gap scheme in high school, and it was taking him longer to get the feel for the outside zone and those zone runs where you're kind of pressing the line, and as soon as you see that crease, you got to plant your foot and go. And he knew that. He was working on it. And how much progress did he make studying film, knowing what that crease is going to look like, and he did score on a 3-yard run in the first scrimmage, and that was the most physical scrimmage they had. And then he's looked good every contact period after that. So, you've got Wisner, who you hope is close to 100% for Ohio State as possible. CJ Baxter, and then as you mentioned, Christian Clark coming off the Achilles. This guy, he was like running full speed 7 months after that injury. And so, Sarkisian keeps saying the medicine, the science, it's amazing. It is.
Yeah.
And the good news is Christian Clark is running like he's never had an injury. And he's got the most make you miss ability in that room. And he's built like
a tank,
the muscle hamster,
Yeah.
He has huge quads, and guys looks like something on Muscle and Fitness. And I'm really excited to see him, because Tashard Choice told me at the Sugar Bowl, when they played Washington and Clark was coming in, he said, this guy has a lot of Bijan Robinson traits, from a contact balance, from a, kind of jump cut, make you miss from point blank range standpoint. And look, Jared Gibson's a downhill guy. CJ's kind of a downhill guy. I think Wisner is going to show us more with the increased confidence. I think last year he was so concerned about hanging on to the football that he was, kind of a straight line guy, and it was tough. I mean, he was breaking arm tackles and that kind of thing, but he had more kind of make you miss ability at DeSoto, and I think that will show up. Now, look, the defense, the competition is way better than what he saw at DeSoto, of course. So, but he said that, and I think that's going to be something to watch. But Sean, you look at this running back room, and if these guys stay healthy, you could have Wisner with a ton of carries, Baxter with a ton of carries. If Clark's really good, he's going to eat up some carries.
Yeah.
I think Jared Gibson's still going to be your short yardage goal line guy. He had 78 carries last year. I'm not sure he gets 78 carries this year.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough. I mean, the rub on bringing all those good guys in is they can't all carry the football. and you have to figure out like who are the the other thing that's crazy, they're all good. Like they all bring something a little different to the table when they're on. And I think, we haven't seen Christian Clark yet, but we've seen Wisner, we've seen Baxter, and we've seen Gibson. It'll be interesting to see how all of that shakes out, because I think early for sure, I honestly think on this offense this year, they're going to have to kind of mix some things up and see what works for a little bit early on this season. I'm not sure we see a lot of that in Ohio State, but I think the 3 games after that, we're going to see, kind of a, let's find out what we have through the first 2 or 3 strings on this team, and especially in that running back room. Another room that's really interesting is that wide receiver room. And Sark said something maybe like midway through camp that really kind of struck me. He just talked about, he answered a question and just said, I'm really satisfied with the wide receiver room. Like the wide receiver room's good, basically. And that's something we haven't really heard out of Sark. We've heard a lot of like, yeah, we're trying to find the right combination, and we're trying to find guys we can trust at the wide receiver position. We didn't hear any of that this year. We heard, yeah, I'm good, I'm happy with the wide receiver. What do you make of that, Chip? Do you think that just is really Sark just saying, I'm good? Like, I think this wide receiver room is exactly where we need to be.
I think the wide receiver room is exactly where it needs to be, as long as Ryan Wingo and DeAndre Moore are
healthy,
moving and shaking, because Wingo seems like he's picked it up a notch over the last 10 days. he's making crazy catches. He and Arch clearly have a connection. And DeAndre Moore is, people are sleeping on DeAndre Moore
I
because
agree.
he's a guy who, he had the foot injury late last year that kind of slowed him down, but the guy had 7 touchdown catches, and he wants 12 this year. I think he can get there.
Yeah.
But those two are going to be the lead dogs, the Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell type targets. And then it's going to be interesting because Emmett Mosley's been slowed a little bit by an ankle. And so Parker Livingstone has really taken advantage of that. And Livingstone, 6'4", Arch's roommate, smart guy, fast. He's got an opportunity here to kind of grab on and show that he's trustworthy in a big game coming up against Ohio State. And then I think Khalil Lockett is a guy who's making a move right now, and good, because the guy's a freak. I mean, he's got 10.5-inch hands. He's 6'2". He's got like a 40-inch vertical. Like, that guy is a springboard with all kinds of, talent. And I think he just needed to get all the concepts down, because that's a prerequisite. Can't just run the route. You got to know where you fit in, why everything fits, and how to position yourself as a blocker, and all that. And so I think he's making strides. And the other guys in that room, Dalen McCutcheon, who's one of the smartest receivers, kind of like a young DeAndre Moore. And then, Michael Terry is a guy who's still trying to figure it out, but has great talent. And Ryan Niblett. I mean, they love Ryan Niblett. And I think he's going to be a little bit of a Keelan Robinson guy who can line up in the backfield, because he's done that, and catch those little flare passes that Robinson seemed to turn into touchdowns. So there's, Sarkisian said it. He's got so many options that he said it's fun, and I'm eager to see how he processes all that in a game, because you don't want to be overly exotic against a team like Ohio State, but you need to show them something different. And Arch is going to be different, so that's going to be the biggest thing. But yeah, I mean, how confident are they in some of these guys, and how much do they feature the guys like Ryan Niblett, Khalil Lockett, because these two teams have a lot of familiarity, but Ohio State had 14 draft picks. Texas had 12 draft picks. So a lot of new faces and new places.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game, because it's such storied programs. They're both in the top 3 right now, depending on which poll you're looking at. And I think, if we were back in the BCS era, this would kind of be like a playoff game right off the bat, similar to the 2005 game when Texas went up there and had to play a really good Ohio State team on the road. The winner of that one, you just kind of got the feeling, was going to match up with USC in the national championship game. And we won't have that this year, but I certainly think this is a game that you're going to see pretty quick, like who really is the team coming back that is poised to possibly make that run for a national championship, and who's the team that's got to do some work, who's the team that still needs to find some things. So it'll be really interesting. We're talking Texas fall camp winding down with Chip Brown. Jump in the chat, post your questions, your comments, whatever. We'll answer questions and things like that. Did this camp seem different to you? I don't listen to all of the press conference stuff, but I feel like just the vibe, basically from media days on, has just seemed different to me than any other year under Steve Sarkisian. Do you guys in the media get that feeling?
Yeah, I think so, because you've got guys who are, the alphas who, like, Anthony Hill and Michael Taff, Quintravian Wisner, who are guys who want to get over the mountaintop. And so they're holding everyone else accountable and saying, hey, if we're going to win this thing, this is how it's got to be done. And that's what Vince did. And that crew in 05, you had great leadership on the defensive side that year too. Rod Wright, Brian Robinson, all the guys in the secondary, Michael Griffin, Huff, Cedric Griffin, Terrell Brown. And they just wouldn't let anyone lose focus for a second. And I think that's what we're seeing with this year's team. And that 2005 team had one player, one starter, miss one game due to injury. That was it. Brian Robinson missed the Oklahoma State game. Other than that, every starter played every game. And that matters. So you need luck on your side. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, I think there's a real sense of purpose, mission, if you will. And there are a lot of similarities going up to Ohio State. And these games, the winner picks up so much confidence.
Right.
I think back to the LSU game in 2019 against Texas. Joe Burrow was coming off a 58.7% completion rate year. I went to the LSU Mississippi State game in Baton Rouge in 18, and Joe Burrow was nice. It was a low scoring, boring game. They bring in Joe Brady and all of a sudden it's off to the races. But that 3rd and 7, not to bring up Scabs, but that 3rd and 17 pass from Burrow to Justin Jefferson, that was Justin Jefferson's launch point.
Yep.
And the confidence that they all gained from winning that game, they just got better and better and better.
Yep.
And I think that's what's on the line on the 30th. And you've got a lot of, Sark said, we could use a lot of poise. We could use a lot of presence in this game because you just don't want to make the mistakes, unforced errors. You just don't want to give that kind of team at home any momentum whatsoever. Right. So I think there is a different feel for sure. I mean, these guys have the big prize in mind, but they're not talking about that stuff. Hell, no one wanted to admit that Jeremiah Smith only had one catch for 3 yards.
Yeah.
Reporters are asking the DBs, hey, you know how many yards Jeremiah Smith had last year against Texas? They're like, I don't know.
I don't care. Yeah.
They're just like,
yeah. And I think that's good, man, because you see a lot of other schools in their media days and things like that. And sometimes they kind of go off the rails and you kind of get to asking yourself, like, who is talking to these guys about what they should and shouldn't say? And, how to redirect questions like that in a different way that just makes sense. And I don't know who does the stuff for Texas, and what that team is made of, but there has to be a really good PR team at the University of Texas that works with these guys. And also I think too, that's just the way Sark is. And he's talked about it before. When my team starts saying the things that I've been saying to them, that's when that the culture is where it needs to be. And it's anywhere. It's at work. It's wherever you have a team. When your teams start saying things that you're saying to them, you've got it built. And now you just got to maintain that and carry that through, a 16-game season or whatever it ends up being. So yeah, I'm really excited. I don't, again, I'm not around it like you guys are, but I just feel like there's something different about the team. And it doesn't mean they'll go win a national championship. It doesn't mean they'll be undefeated. As you mentioned, you got to have some luck. There's a lot of things that have to go right to be able to go do that. I mean, who thought Ohio State was winning a national championship after they laid an egg against Michigan? Nobody. Right. I mean, they wanted to fire their coach.
Right.
And they figured it out and they went and won a national championship. So it's a long road to get there, but I think the starting point is better than it's ever been under Steve Sarkisian going into this 2025 season.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see how they are going to run the football
Yes.
because we know they can run gap. We know the outside zone's been a bread and butter. But with Arch in the mix, and I'm not saying they're going to start running zone read, but let's say CJ Baxter's more comfortable running counter power, then maybe that's what they run against Ohio State. It's a completely different wrinkle, and it's kind of what Ohio State did after the Michigan game.
Mm-hmm.
They changed up their, they said let's just play smash mouth football, and it opened up everything for them. So, I'm interested to see that, and I'm interested to see how Arch's athletic ability helps the run game, especially in the red zone. I think we all probably thought we were going to see more of Arch in the red zone after the A&M game, and we kind of saw less.
Yeah.
And I, no need to rehash all that because now he's the guy.
Right.
So how does Steve Sarkisian work that? And he's a little bit out of his comfort zone. Let's be honest. Sark said in 21, not really into running the quarterback, don't want to expose the quarterback to any more hits than necessary. But he's completely changed his tune when it comes to Arch because the guy can run. He's a bigger guy than Quinn. He's 6'4", 220. Obviously, you don't want to subject him to, hits like he took in the Ohio State game in the semifinal last year. He says he was not concussed, but
okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, it sure looked like he was concussed.
Yeah. So I'm very interested to see how that goes. And then I think Jack Endries is a guy who quickly formed a bond with Arch and put in all the extra work, earned the respect of his teammates quickly, and is a guy who, he had 56 catches last year. Gunnar Helm had 60.
Yeah, he was like a Gunnar Helm type of clone guy. Like really, their numbers lined up a lot.
I walked out of Moncrief with him yesterday. He's every bit of 6'4". I mean, he could be 6'5". He doesn't have the length of Helm, arm length and that kind of thing, but everyone's saying how athletic he is. So I think was a huge pickup. And then you've got, so many different kinds of tight ends with him. Spencer Shannon, Jordan Washington, Nick Townsend, Amari Winston. They like them all.
Right.
And so Sark's saying, we're probably going to have different 12 personnel packages.
Yeah.
Okay. That'll be fun.
Yeah. I mean, I think the key, we talked about at the top of the show, having all these guys, if you can find a way to get them all on the field and able to, produce a little bit, that's big time. I mean, I think that's the hard part. And you mentioned it too. Like you've got all these chess pieces. You want to use them all because you've got them. But at what point do you just go, this is what's working and this is what I'm going to roll with for maybe just this game? When I talked last week on the show about that Ohio State game, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago. I don't know that one's going to be a very exotic game. I mean, I'm interested to see if Sark lets it rip with Arch or if we see more of a, old school SEC type of offensive game plan where you just try to pound the rock, maybe take a couple shots, you don't hit them, you punt, and then you just hope that over the course of the game you wear them down and bust a play or two, and maybe that's how you win the game. I don't really think that's Sark's style, but I think that might be a way, probably not the only way, but I think that is a way Texas can go up to the shoe and win that game.
I don't want the ball. I don't want the ball in the air with Caleb Downs over there.
Not a lot.
He is, he's probably the closest thing I've seen to Earl Thomas. The guy he covers ground so quickly. You think he's he lines up deep, like at the single high safety position, and he's
in
at
the
the
backfield.
catch on a
Yeah.
flare. Right.
Yeah.
He's at it's we saw it. Hell, we saw it on that sweep at the goal line. I mean, the play should have been to have Wisner throw a pass because Caleb Downs came flying in so fast that you could have lobbed something right behind him and it's a touchdown. So yeah, I agree with you. I mean, this is a game that you'd love to be able to pound it. And if you have to punt, you feel good about your punter, Jack Bomeister. And then, hopefully Mason Shipley, your field goal kicker, is locked in, because you could win this game 9-7 if you had to, or 13-10.
Yeah, and you got I think the key, and I think this is the defense was really good last year. It was pretty good, but not as good the year before. There were some holes in it. Last year was, I feel like, the first year we could really go, man, that's a pretty solid defense we fielded. I think this defense is going to be better. I said that at the end of the season last year. I think this defense is going to be the key to this team. I think it's going to be the strength of this team. And I think it's going to be really good. Like, it's going to be elite. So if that's the case, even if it's even close to that case, if you're Steve Sarkisian, you kind of have that to fall back on and go, I don't have to score 40 points in this game to go win this game against Ohio State. My defense is probably going to hold serve.
I agree with you. I think Texas's defense will be what Ohio State's defense was a year ago. Number 1 in points allowed, top 3 in run and pass defense. And I think they'll lead the nation in sacks. And even if they don't, I think they'll, they had 46 sacks last year. Ole Miss led the SEC with 52, led the nation, I think, with 52. Mm-hmm. I think Texas can be over, 55 sacks. Alabama had 57 sacks in 2020. That's the most in the last, 5 years. I think Texas can get in that neighborhood with Colin Simmons, who had 9 sacks without ever starting a game.
Right.
I mean,
and you got, Ant Hill, who, what was he, 6.5, 7.5?
He had 8.
Yeah, 8. Okay, so 8 sacks.
16 and a half tackles for loss.
Yeah, he was phenomenal last year. I mean, you watch him play and you go, man, that dude's really good. And then you go look at the numbers and you're like, holy crap, like, this dude, he's an animal. I mean, he's the best linebacker we've had, and maybe the best we've had, but he's certainly the best we've had since Derek Johnson, in terms of just like being able to get from sideline to sideline and make plays.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love that kid. He's such a great kid, first of all. And then second of all, he just loves football. He just loves it. And it's so fun to watch him, just find new ways to disrupt the opposing offense. And, my God, he should have won the Butkus last year. He wasn't even a finalist. I don't get it. He could have won the Nagurski. Like, his numbers were that, like, Abdul Carter had a, great year. He had 17 and a half tackles for loss. Anthony Hill had 16 and a half.
Yeah.
Abdul Carter had more sacks than Anthony Hill, but he was an edge rusher.
Right.
And Anthony Hill had 8 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, an interception that should have been a pick 6 if Trey Moore doesn't block in the back.
Yeah.
When he didn't even need to. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think this defense is, and I said this earlier today. When Texas walked into the Horseshoe in 2005, they were feeding off of Vince Young, and they were feeding off of all that other NFL talent, but they walked on the field with Vince Young, and they felt like we can win
do this.
Against everybody. This year, that confidence is coming from the defense. And Colin Simmons and Ant Hill and Ethan Burke. These guys, Ethan Burke, that dude is so hungry to get on the field, disrupt. This could be a really special year on defense, and I'm here to see it. I mean, when you got all these guys. They got the best edge room and the best linebacker room in the country. And I think everyone's going to finally see it. I don't know why Anthony Hill wasn't a Butkus finalist or a Nagurski finalist, but everyone seems to have figured it out now. So
yeah, you kind of can't not. I mean, I mean, he got, he's an all SEC guy. At that point, I think people are like, okay, this guy's probably pretty good. Let's pay. And I don't know how you weren't paying attention. He's been, his freshman year was just kind of off the handle. Didn't know what was going on. I don't think he had a clue what he was doing. He just knew he could get in there and find the ball and go make plays, and he did. And they put him in specific, situations to just go do that. And now last year he figures it out a little bit. I think this year is going to be so much fun to watch. And you're right. You got Colin Simmons out there now, who's another guy that last year as a freshman, you could see how talented he was, but he didn't really know how to play edge at that level. And then you could tell they start working on his work fit or his run fit. He gets better and better and better, and his snaps get more and more and more. By the end of the year, he's dropping back into coverage, and then the next play he's rushing just the guy is so versatile, and there's a handful of guys on that defense that are just like that they can put them anywhere to do anything. And I think as an opposing offense, that's got to be really tough to match up with and figure out where pressure's coming from. They're going to be tough on people. And I think PK is going to be able to do a lot of things this year that he hasn't necessarily been able to do while he's been at Texas. You mentioned the edge. I think out of all the positions at Texas, since Steve Sarkisian got there, edge has been the one that's been the most slow to come along. We just really haven't seen a ton of pressure off the edge until last year. And this year, that room, if all of them can stay healthy, that is a freakishly athletic, go get the quarterback type of room. You talk about Colton Vasek, he's been hurt a lot, but when he plays, he disrupts everything. You got a guy like Zena Umeozulu, who people are just like, he's the most raw guy on the planet, but you can just see he knows how to get back there and make plays. And there's a lot of incoming freshmen that look really like that they might be able to put a hand down and go play. So, the defense.
Lance Jackson is,
yeah.
Simmons is already proclaiming Lance Jackson's going to be a first rounder in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. So just the amount of talent is insane. I think the big question, I think there's a couple questions on that defense. And one of them is not so huge to me just because I feel like they went out and got the right bodies to get in there and play in the interior of that defensive line. It's a lot of new guys. But I think they've got, you look at those guys and they are big. Like, we were big last year and big the year before, but these dudes look insanely big and athletic. I don't know. What's your take? You've seen them. I'm not that worried about the defensive line, at least stepping up and being, serviceable.
Right. Look, Murad Watson comes in. He's 327, and I couldn't find an ounce of fat on the guy.
Yeah, he's huge.
He's huge. Cole Brevard, 346. And he's like a prototype one technique.
Right.
Kenny Baker's like, hey, dude, you got to be more than that. You got to be able to play the 2-eye, the 4-eye, 3 technique. And so they're really trying to get his head around, being more versatile. And then, Travis Shaw, 342, and that's down from 356. And they're excited about him. And Hero Canoe, he's the lightest of the bunch. He's 299, but he's got some explosion, some strength to play that 3 technique. And then a guy who they love, and I don't know how quickly he'll be an impact guy or not, is Josiah Sharma.
Yeah.
And Sharma is what, 340, 356. He's huge.
Yeah.
And he can move. This is a guy who's, kind of like Tavondre Sweat in his junior year, but we'll see. I don't know how quickly they're going to push Sharma in there, but I bet he's getting reps by midseason.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, right? Like they brought in a lot of guys because they have to, right? Because the depth wasn't there after the draft. So they bring in a lot of guys. If you know, if 3 or 4 of those guys pan out and you can rotate 5 to 6 guys, because I think Alex January is a guy that, you know, a lot of people sleep on. He's a guy that
They love him.
yeah, but I think just, you know, most people that watch the defensive line are watching for a guy to disrupt and make a play. And it's not always about that necessarily. He held his own very well last year on that defensive line. That I'm
Against
excited.
Ohio State, he
Yeah,
drew the penalty from
yeah,
Travion, right? The head slap.
yeah. So I feel like there's a lot of bodies there, and if they can get 5 to 6 of those guys again that can play and they can trust to do what they're supposed to be doing, that's just another deep group in that defense that is going to be hard on people. Like, you know, most teams are not going to be able to handle 5 or 6 320 plus pound guys fresh coming at them all game long.
That's ridiculous. Like, I mean, when Sarkisian said we got 6 guys who are interchangeable, I was like, okay, then it's over. You know,
Yeah,
I mean, if you've got 6 guys who are interchangeable and they can stop the run,
right.
and you're going to be in third and long. You're
Long.
going to be in
Yep.
third and obvious passing, and that just sets up Colin
Yeah,
Simmons and Ethan Burke. And
yeah, this defense will eat if they can stay in third and long. I think, you know, there's a lot of questions in the secondary about, and I don't think they're questions. I think we know who those guys are going to be now. It'll just be the question now is like, how quickly does that group gel together, and can we avoid like communication mistakes and things like that? The things that really got us 2 seasons ago.
right.
Can we avoid that type of stuff? Because I think they're all talented. We've seen most of them play, if not all of them. We've seen all of them play. You've got Jelani McDonald, who's spun down, who's I think probably ends up in that nickel position. You've got not Jade, but you got oh shoot, I can't even think of his name. Tell me his name.
Jalen Gilbo.
Yeah, Gilbo has moved out from the star to a cornerback position, which I think is interesting. They've done that 2 seasons in a row, and last year I was like, "What? What are we doing? Like, that's Jade's position. Why are we doing that?" And all he does is go win the Thorpe Award, which clearly means I don't know what I'm talking about. So, and I'm cool to admit that I don't get paid millions of dollars. But yeah, so the bodies I think are there. I think maybe there's some depth concerns because the guys coming in behind them haven't played a lot, but you got a lot of guys they're excited about. Kobe Black is a name that has kind of been floated out there as maybe a guy that even steps in and takes some reps at one of those cornerback positions. And then obviously you've got you know, Xavier Filsaime, you got Jonah Williams, who, you know, this Texas the baseball fan base 1000% embraced. The football fan base is going to love this guy. He's gonna play. He's that type of dude. He's gonna play.
Oh, he wanted to return punts and kicks.
It doesn't surprise me.
And he's got that hamstring. They got to get that thing figured out. I was like, you know, he needs to live with Torrey Becton, because we've seen guys have hamstring injuries, and then, you know, you've got to do extra all the time to make sure that stuff doesn't come back. But yeah, I think 2 freshmen who've really made strides, or, you know, made a big push here at the end of camp. Grayson Littleton, who everybody, Jalen Gilbo, Michael Taff, Anthony Hill are all like, yeah, he's one of them ones.
Yeah.
This guy eats, drinks, and sleeps football. He's in the film room. He asked on his recruiting trip, do I have access to the film room anytime I want? And they're like, huh? And he has. Like, there are times he's in there in the middle of the night because he can't sleep. He's thinking about something, whatever. And they're all like, this guy's on it. Now, you know, I'm like you. I'm like, okay, if Derek Williams is back 100%, which they say he is, which is great news, because Derek Williams was a playmaker last year, you know, against Michigan, against OU, and Taff and Derek have great communication. So do Jelani and Derek and Taff. and Jelani played nickel late in the year, big nickel, whatever we want to call it.
Mhm.
But Jelani's so athletically gifted and versatile. He could play outside corner at 6'2", 200 pounds. Do they trust Grayson Littleton to? I mean, I think he'll get snaps at nickel against Ohio State. I don't know if he'll start, but he's a guy. And Cade Phillips. So
Yes.
Cade Phillips has a ridiculous wingspan. He's got unbelievable length in his arms. And I think he's making a push. It was at the beginning of camp, it was Manny Muhammad and Jalen Gilbo, Kobe Black, and Warren Roberson. I'm not sure if Phillips hasn't pushed past Roberson.
Right.
And Warren Roberson, you love him because he's got swag. He's incredible in man coverage. The knock on him was his zone coverage. And Cade Phillips gets it all. So he's going to play.
Yeah.
Cade Phillips is going to play. And I bet you he'll be getting some snaps in that Ohio State game.
Yeah, I mean, you looked at that, secondary had to be a question because they lost so many good players. But I think you looked at that room and went, if they can bring all these guys back and keep them healthy, as we left last season, you knew it was talented. It's probably the most talented again. And I don't know if I'm crazy for saying this. I feel like it's probably the most talented entire secondary we've ever had since I've been alive watching Texas. I mean, no knock on that 2005 group, but I feel like there's a lot of guys in this room that can go on and be starters, could go play other schools, other big schools right now, and go get a ton of playing time.
That's the measurement. That's the measurement is 05 because that had 2 Thorpe Award winners.
Yeah, that was a sick defensive backfield, no doubt. It's at least to me as talented.
Yeah,
like there's some guys that can play that won't play a ton this year, and I think as a coach and as a fan base, you got to be excited that you have that type of people in your program. You lose one, okay.
This, John. Santana Wilson, I was told, had more interceptions than anyone in the spring, and he just picked off another pass in the second scrimmage, and you're
not hearing his name. Yeah, you're not hearing his name. Yeah,
like they feel comfortable with him playing. That's how talented this group is.
Yeah. So again, I think going back to all the things you're interested in seeing, I'm super interested to see in how Sark handles the game plan against Ohio State. I think the running game is one we didn't talk about a lot, but it's been a problem. I mean, the 3 games we lost last year, I don't know that we couldn't run the ball so much as we just kind of gave up running the ball. I've said this. We couldn't run the ball in a couple of those games. It just wasn't looking
2
good.
yards a carry against Ohio State, 1.1 yards per carry in both of the games against Georgia.
Yeah. But there were times early in both those games where we were making some hay, especially that first game. And then we just said, we're not doing it anymore. And that's when Kirby Smart just cut them loose. And you could just see that one was just going to unravel. The offensive line didn't have a chance in that game because we just went away from the running game. So I would almost like to see Sark, not to the point that it's ridiculous and we're down by 20 in the fourth quarter and we're still running it, but in a close game, I would like to see Sark just kind of try to lean on that running game and see what happens later. Because I always go back to those Alabama, LSU teams back in the mid to late 2000s, early 2010s. They just ran the ball and the games would be 7-3. But at the end of one of those games, somebody busted one and made a touchdown that won the game. And then the other team was kind of just like, man, we can't catch up. We can't. The defenses are too good, right? So I don't know. I love the high flying, and I think he's got the tools to do it. I just don't want us to get in a situation where we just hand it to Arch and go, hey, man, go win a game in the shoe. Because I love Arch. I think he's ready for a lot of things. I don't know if that's one of them, at this point in his career.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't know how much I want the ball in the air with Caleb Downs out there, And so I think Sark, who tends to have his quarterbacks throw early in a game just so that they get some completions and get a rhythm. I thought that hurt them in the Sugar Bowl against Washington when they were averaging 12 and a half yards per carry. And you're still trying to get Quinn Ewers kind of warmed up. I thought that was an opportunity there to hammer and get some points up on the board. But yeah, I'm very interested to see how Sarkisian handles this, because you've got, Arch is making his first road start. This team's been really good on the road. They've got the nation's longest winning streak in true road games at 11. And I think Arch is super competitive. And if he makes a mistake early, he's gonna respond by coming back and doing the smart thing. We saw how good he was last year after he threw those 2 interceptions against ULM. Against Mississippi State, he's 26 of 31 for 325 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. So he's a guy who learns from his mistakes. And, Sark said it. We've been around Arch 3 years. We know what he likes. We know what he's good at.
And that's fair.
It's just a question of, okay, do we have the guys on the other end of it in the passing game?
And can we protect him? Can we protect him?
Can we protect him? And how much are they going to move the pocket? That's not something that Sark has done. And my God, Colt McCoy, that's all they did with Colt McCoy in 08 and 09. They didn't have the great offensive lines. It was Colt McCoy, and he was more accurate on the run than he was from the pocket, which is crazy, but true. Yeah. And so, who's his best connection with? Last year, Quinn had a great connection with Helm and with Matt Golden and DeAndre Moore when he, when the foot injury wasn't getting to him. Does he have that already with Wingo? Does he have it already with Endries? Does he have it with Moore already? We're about to find out.
We're going to find out real quick about all these interesting things we want to know and questions we have. We'll find out really quick, because I don't think there's probably a better team and a better place to go on the road to test who you are in week 1 than going up to the defending national champs and playing in the horseshoe. So it'll be they'll show us what they got really quickly. Something I just thought about, Chip, while you were talking, the flip side of the defense is really great. Let's see if we can run the ball. Maybe Sark's I think what Sark is probably thinking is, I got a really great defense. We can mess up on offense and still be okay. Let's cut this loose and let's try to get some points early and get a lead that we just can't, they just can't fight back from, because they're starting a new quarterback and a bunch of new offensive linemen as well. So
and look, there's concern up there about their defensive line. They just lost JTT and Tyleik Williams, and those guys are all in the NFL. Jack Sawyer, and they're talented, but I don't know that they have guys like Texas was able to, bring in Colin Simmons, who wasn't a starter. that might be a decent matchup, the Texas offensive line against the Ohio State defensive line for the Longhorns. We'll see, but
yep. All right, Chip, tell me your record prediction this year for the Longhorns. You don't have to get into all the details, but what do you think? What do you think Texas leaves the regular season at?
I said 10-2 because, look, I'm going to give Georgia the benefit of the doubt. They've won 31 in a row at home. Georgia, they've lost 5 games in 4 years. Right. And then, for some crazy reason, I think they're going to be okay at Florida, and they're going to be sore as hell because Anthony Hill said that game was one of the most physical of last year, and Florida has its entire offensive line back. OU is a scary game if Mateer is who we think he is. I think he's Sam Levitt. And then you got that night game at Kentucky right after the OU game. That's the one, like, you think, no. But that's the one where they could just be like, we're exhausted. And then you got to go
Yeah.
play a night game at Kentucky and
Yeah, there's a lot of spots on the schedule to trip up. I'm kind of in line with you. I said either 11-1, 10-2 type of year. And I agree about the Georgia pick. I think that's a game that Texas probably has a lead in late, and then Georgia does something Georgia-y and figures out a way to win it at home. But I'm not sure on the other one. I would not be surprised with any outcome out of this game one up at Ohio State. Like if they were to figure out a way to win it, it wouldn't really shock me. But then I look at, everybody's big on Florida. I'm not, but I think there's enough teams. I think there's enough teams on that SEC schedule that can get you. If, like you said, you're worn out, you're beat up, like whatever the case may be, like you overlook them a little. Kentucky beat some good teams last year and played toe to toe with some good teams last year. So they're certainly, and I know they've probably lost a ton of guys too, but it's just who Mike Stoops, or is it Mark or Mike? Which Stoops is it over
Mark.
there? Mark, yeah. It's just who he is. They're just going to be scrappy, junkyardy, tough team. So yeah, I could see that. But yeah, I'm with you. I think 11-1, 10-2 regular season is probably accurate out of this Texas team.
Both Texas and Ohio State, Texas has a tough schedule. There are a lot of people who think they're going to have 3 losses and be the one that tests the first three loss team getting into the 12-team playoff. Ohio State's kind of in a similar boat because, Illinois is going to be really tough. Michigan, they've had trouble with, and I think they're playing both on the road. They get Penn State at home, they'll beat Penn State, I would think. I'm not buying Drew Aller.
I'm not either.
I think, Ohio State, they play at Illinois, they play at Michigan. So both of these teams, Texas and Ohio State, have really tough road games this year. And I think whoever wins this game gets the momentum that pushes them.
Yeah, because you kind of get
to get to the national championship.
You kind of erase a road loss with a win like that, right? Like if you're Texas and you go up there and win that game early on the road, you could go to Kentucky and lose a game and wind up 10-2 or maybe even 9-3 for some reason and still have the benefit of winning that game, which I think is a big deal to the committee. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how all that folds out. We're in 0 week, Chip. What's your thoughts on 0 week? Are you yay on 0 week or nay on 0 week?
What the hell's going on? We got Iowa State and Kansas State. The winner of that game is got the inside track to winning the Big 12.
Right. And
that's how big that game is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a game I'm super interested in. The rest of it,
wait, who's Notre Dame, Miami Sunday night?
Oh, okay. So Sunday. Well, okay, fair enough. I did not know that game was on Sunday.
That's next weekend. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I mean, you've got Stanford and Hawaii, I believe, Saturday, and then Kansas and who are they playing? It just doesn't resonate with me. It's not like to me, it's like almost undermining the legitimacy of the real opening Saturday of college football. I do like that Kansas State Iowa State matchup, but it's at 11. It's going to be over quick, and then we're going to be sitting here going, "What do we do?" Like watching Abilene Christian or Tarleton State play somebody. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. It is. I mean, as a college football junkie, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what Jalen Daniels looks like at Kansas. Are they any better? Because they were awful at the beginning of last year, and then they beat everybody at the end, but it was too late. So, and Texas fans will get a look at Sam Houston. Not that they care, but
Yeah, I
Same
mean,
Houston.
the games will be on. We'll have the games on. It just like gets me pumped up, and then I look at it and I go, like this isn't what I want to watch. Where's all the
Well,
numbers next to the names?
you'll also, I don't know if you're a tennis guy. You also have the U.S. Open going.
Yeah, I'm not a tennis guy, but and I won't watch it either. But that's just because I don't understand it. I don't hate on tennis. I just don't. I don't know. I've just never been a tennis guy. So anyway, 0 week coming up, man. We're excited. We're excited about those Longhorns. Obviously, I'm going to ask you. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot. Is Arch Manning sitting in New York in December at the end of this year? There's a lot of talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, I've gone back and forth on this, but if Texas has the kind of season they want to have, yes, he is.
He's going to have to be, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think he's going to get in a groove, and he's going to get better every game.
Yeah.
And if they have that liftoff of momentum by beating Ohio State, yeah, he'll be in New York. I don't know if he wins it, but he'll be there because I think this dude is special. Now, his thing is he's got to be quick with his decisions. Last year, he locked onto his primary receiver too much. I've heard he's holding the ball too long sometimes right now in camp because he's trying to get that deep shot.
Mm-hmm.
We saw that with Sam Ehlinger. Now obviously that was as a true freshman.
Sure.
Arch has been in this thing for 3 years. So
yeah. It's interesting kind of the difference in Ewers and Arch Manning last year. Like Arch Manning was like, I want to throw the ball 50 yards down the field. And Ewers was like, let me just get this thing out and let one of these guys run around. I think a lot of that was the injuries. Like, I don't think he was right once that oblique thing happened. I just don't think he had the arm strength to push the ball down the field the way Sark would want him to push the ball down the field. But you had Arch Manning just taking shots to get the ball down the field. You can tell he's not afraid to stand in there and try to make a big play. But I agree, he's going to have to pick those battles. And I think for him, and that's just going to come with reps and experience, consistent experience doing it. But yeah, talent wise and like all the tools, he's got them. There's no doubt about that. So yeah, I mean, it'll be fun to see how he grows. I think offensive line, defensive line are really where this team kind of can separate itself. If that offensive line can gel and stay healthy from the rest of the country and possibly get Texas that first national championship in 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, how about that? 20 years.
It doesn't seem like it, right? That's crazy.
And they're playing at Ohio State,
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of lining up like it should be fate, right?
Yeah.
Well, we'll take it. You'll be up in Ohio, right? You're going to be in Columbus?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. We'll be up there too.
And I don't know how many Texas fans who went in 05 are going to go back because it was such a bad experience for them.
I keep hearing that, man. I keep hearing everybody I've talked to that went up there said it was like really bad. And I want to think that they just ran into like the worst person in the stadium and not to belittle their experience, but the whole experience wasn't that bad. But I keep hearing it. So I feel like we're going to have to lay ground rules when we walk into the stadium about like, hey man, like I'm just here to watch a football game. I'm not here to fight with you guys. I don't know if that'll work. You think that'll work, Chip? Or do I just need to come in and start body slamming people?
I mean, listen, I'm probably the wrong guy to ask because I grew up in Michigan. So, but I even had a guy come up to me, and I wear black when I go to games,
right?
Don't draw attention. This guy comes up to me, you from Texas? I'm like, yep. And he's like, we're going to fucking kick your ass. You never should come here. I was like, actually, I'm from Michigan. And then the guy's like, what?
So you really,
but I mean, I was just getting out of my car.
Yeah.
Like I didn't say anything. I didn't look at him, and he's all up on me. And I'm like, you guys need a life,
I can do words. I just worry about like if people try to get physical. Texas Tech's pretty brutal, like with the words. If you're a Texas fan, and I have the discipline to ignore that. I just don't want to. I don't want anybody to touch me or my wife. God forbid. That'll be a problem. So
Right.
yeah,
Are you
I hope.
going?
What's that?
Are you going?
Yeah, we'll be there, and I think we've got tickets in one of the Texas sections. So I think at least all we got to do is get in and get out, and we should be okay.
I want to talk to you after the game.
All right, let's do it.
I want to
Let's
know
do it.
what your experience was like, because it was so bad, Sean, that when Ohio State came here in 06, first of all, the president of Ohio State put out a public letter of apology, which I
Oh
don't know
wow.
that I've ever seen that. But when they came down here, Texas was like, hey, let's show respect. I mean, it was,
I was at that one too, and it was low key. I mean, it wasn't a. I didn't see anything crazy going on at that game.
yeah. And I think because they made such a big deal out of it,
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. We'll connect afterwards and exchange notes
yeah,
about how
man.
our experience was. But Chip, man, I sure do appreciate you taking the time to come on tonight. You guys go check out Chip. You can find him at Horns247. You can find him on Texas Sports Unfiltered. You can find him right there at Chip Brown 247 on Twitter. Good follow, lots of good information. You've been doing this for a long time with Texas, like 20 something years, right?
33 years.
33 years. Wow. So yeah. And Chip's on the baseball, the football, the basketball. Chip does it all, man. So y'all tune into Chip's Twitters and Horns 24/7s, and you'll get all kinds of good inside scoop stuff from Chip.
Well, Sean, I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, man. Have a good rest of the week, and man, we'll next week's gonna be exciting. It's game week.
Let's go.
Let's go, man. All right, Chip. Have a good one.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.